Speed tips here. I have some artwork here from Vector website online, some whatever your choice is of downloading Vecteezy or Vector Stock or Elements or Adobe Stock, whatever you use. I want to go over some stuff in the layers panel. I touched on this in another earlier video, but this will be a little more in depth about groups and layers and how things stack inside the layers panel. This is going to be very important for anyone that does download artwork off the internet, because no artwork is created equally. It's so different between designers, between how people build stuff, how people group stuff together. I've seen it all, and it's really good to learn how things are built and the way they can be built, because that'll help you. It'll just help you, help you down the road as the more and more files you download and look at and open up. Usually what I do, as soon as I get a file, I like to run it right over to the layers panel because I want to check out what's going on. I actually haven't looked at this one yet. We're doing this together for the first time right now, so I don't even know what this one's about. We're going to find out together. Excuse me. So right out of the gate, I notice we have two layers. I'm immediately going to get rid of that. It looks like they have the background, which is just a white rectangle sitting back here. I don't need that. I'm going to get rid of that right away. So I'm just going to highlight that layer, and I'm going to hit the delete. Do you want to delete that because it has artwork? Yep, goodbye. Okay, so now we have a layer with just these three ladybugs. Let's spin that down, and you'll notice we have groups. So each ladybug in this file is its own group, and that's perfect. That's the way it should be. We'll work on this bottom one first. Let's open it up. So I'm going to spin it down, and then you'll start to see more groups inside of the group. And the reason this happens, this is a really good way to start organizing your artwork. Now, the only reason you would start taking advantage of this is one of two reasons. One, you actually build the artwork from the ground up yourself, or you're putting multiple pieces together from multiple different files, and you want to have one cohesive look. So this is where you would want to group things together so your artwork stays neat and you don't go crazy trying to find stuff, right? So in each side of let's see what's inside each of these groups. We're just going to spin them open and see what we got going on. So this group has another group with a bunch of paths. And if you target any of these, remember this little circle over here is the target. And I talked about it in an earlier video. You can see what these objects are, and you can see over there that as I click on them, it shows me on the artboard which ones they are. And I got this big oval here, and so that's great. And I'm just going to flip through these real quick. I just like to take a little look through here. Really, what I'm looking for, which is not in this file, which actually works out really well, because it's a little more. I'd rather spend a little more time on it. Is looking for clipping masks or clip groups or any of that kind of craziness, mesh gradients, stuff that really will trip people up when they come across them inside of files that you may download or get from somewhere. So this is pretty straightforward. It's just paths inside of groups, inside of groups, inside of groups. And once again, it is just there for neatness and to be able to track what's going on. I'll show you a cool little trick here. If you have a group, the utmost group, if you will, out of all the groups, so that would be this one. If I spin this closed, you'll notice that everything goes away, but when I spin it back open, I still have groups inside of groups and paths, and it's still kind of messy. If I hold the Option key, Alt key on a PC, and I click it open, and then I click and close it, you see it goes back to normal, and I'll show you that again. If I close it, hold the Option key or the Alt key on a PC, and click the arrow, it will literally spin open every group that's inside here in one fell swoop, and I get a good look at what's going on. When I click it again, if I have to hold the Option key when I close it, so I'm holding the Option key as I close it. Now when I let go of the Option key and I spin it open, it's all back to close up. It's all nice and neat again. So we'll do that to this next one just for another demonstration. So I'm going to hold the Option key. I'm going to click on the little arrow. We'll spin this down, and you'll see that it'll open everything up. Everything looks pretty standard in here. Like I said, it's just a bunch of paths inside of groups, inside of paths, inside of groups. I'm going to spin this closed, meeting that all up. And this guy, one last one, we'll just check that out, and that looks all great to me. So perfect. Okay, so now inside the layer we have these groups, And I think I had mentioned before, I definitely know I had mentioned before, we talked about the appearance panel in one of my earlier videos. If you haven't watched that video on the appearance panel yet or know nothing about the appearance panel, I would definitely go check that out because there's a lot to learn about it. I could actually add attributes to the groups inside the layer. So what does that mean? So let's just say once again, I think if you remember from the appearance panel little video I did, I talked about cut lines and how you can show like a cut line around an object. I'll just recap that really quickly. If I click one actually I'll do it with a square right here. If I have this square and in the appearance panel I add a stroke to this square, let me add some color to this. With that black. So there we go. We have a stroke, and I'm going to give it a offset path while going to the effects panel. Go to path and offset path, and I'm going to make it round, and I'm going to make it 0.5 inches. There we go. So I have this object with this offset path around it. Now, inside of here is a bunch of paths inside these groups, but I want this stroke to be around the whole object. I don't want it to be around just every single object in here. That would be a mess. So what I can do is I can select the group. There's the group. You'll notice in the appearance panel now it says group, then contents, and then the opacity for the overall shape. And by the way, you can adjust the opacity for the overall. Oh, I don't want to do that. The overall shape. Excuse me. So yeah, so you can adjust that there. But once I have the whole group selected, let's say I add, I'm going to add a fill because I want you to see what this looks like. So I'm selected here in the group and I'm going to add a fill, and you'll notice it turns black. The reason it turns black, well, first of all, because black is the fill color, that's why it turned black. But the artwork is still there and it is still colored. It lies in the contents. If I were to drag this fill below the contents, you'll notice that the artwork comes back. That just means now this fill is behind this artwork. So as in the video I did before, if you have the black fill selected and then come down to the effects panel and go to Distort Transform and go to Transform, you can then slide or expand, you can do whatever you want to it, that black fill that's behind there. I could do all kinds of stuff to it. I can make it big and kind of like a big old shadow, whatever, and then I can come over here and turn the opacity of just that black fill down, so you have kind of like a little shadow. And if I select that and I go to stylize and I go to feather, I could then set a feather on here. I'm going to hold the shift key and arrow up, and you'll see that it gets this kind of shadow going, kind of like the little things kind of flying off the paper right there. So there's like a little trick for you. So the reason I'm showing you that is because now I'll show you what happens. So now we're going to delete this fill. We don't need that. I'm going to add this. I'm going to add the stroke. I'm going to add make it 5 points so we can see it. Something I'm going to do, you can see how I have all the red lines, which is highlights the paths when you have a selection made. I'm going to hide those. And to hide those, I'm going to hit Command H or Control H on a PC, and now I can just see this. I can see the strokes. So you can see what it did. It added a stroke to every object inside of that group, but that is not what I want. So I'm going to first do the offset. So let's do the offset of this. So I'm going to go Path, Offset, and I'm going to offset by 0.5 inches. So there you go. And still not the desired look I want. And this is going to be rounded, and I'm going to hit OK. Really cool trick, and this one took me a little bit to kind of get my head around. It didn't make sense to me at first, but you have to have certain things in place for this to work. It has to be like on a group like this. It has to have a bunch of different paths like this. We're actually going to apply a Pathfinder effect. And what I mean by that is in the Pathfinder, if you click on the Unite tool like we've done in other videos, it'll join the paths together, right? What this does is it gives the effect that the paths are joined together. So what does that all mean? Let's see it in action. I'm going to have this stroke selected. I'm going to come down to Effects, and I'm going to go to Pathfinder. Pathfinder, and I'm going to go to Add. And you'll see immediately it now looks like a cut line. but everything is still there. All those lines are still there. It's just an effect. If I turn it off, I can legit eyeball just that effect. You'll see I eyeball it, and all the actually I eyeballed the wrong thing. I want to eyeball the Pathfinder ad. You'll see that they all come back because they're physically still there. Here's the cool trick. With that selected like that, and with the stroke just like that, and once again, this is on a group, and that's very important. So this stroke is applied to the entire group. Very important. I'm going to come up with this selected. I'm going to come up to the object, and I'm going to go down to expand appearance. When I expand the appearance, what happens is it takes the topmost effect, which is just the stroke, and separates it from the artwork. So now if I come over here in the layers panel, I look at the group, I'm going to spin this down. You're now going to see I have a group that has just this stroke, the path with a stroke, and the artwork. So if I'm going to lock and hide the artwork, you can see now, and I'm going to spin this down, you can see now I just have a path, which is just basically the cut line, which I would need later on. Now, you can build cut lines this way. I do not, because a lot of times you're going to run into more complex artwork that has mesh gradients, clipping masks. This technique won't work. If you have simple objects like these ladybugs, it just happened to work out that way, this will work, and it'll work perfectly, just like you saw. The cool thing about this is I'm going to click Control Z and step back just a couple steps till I get my stroke here and everything. Remember, in like the appearance panel video I showed you guys, we talked about earlier, I can add this to a graphic style, make a graphic style out of this. So with this object selected, I'm going to go new graphic and new graphic style, and I'm going to call this I'll call this outline, or just cut line. I guess that'll work just fine. Now understand, this is where this stuff starts to get a little deep and confusing, because it's this layers upon layers start happening. Because I built that stroke on a group, it will only apply to a group. It's the only way it'll work. So if I select the other group with the other ladybug, this full group, and then I click outline, you'll see I will immediately get that outline around there along with the attributes that are in the appearance panel. Same thing, I'm going to select the last one, and there you go. And I don't need to select them one at a time. I'm going to undo that and just show you that you can select both of them and just hit the outline, and it will apply to all of those. Now, if I select all, I'm actually going to delete this little rectangle. We don't need that anymore. If I select all by hitting Control A on the PC or Command A on the Mac and go to expand appearance, you'll now see that I have those separate cut lines or paths, whichever you want to call them, separated out just like that, ready to go. Now, I would personally come over here and ungroup all this stuff so it's a little bit neater, meaning right now I have a group inside of a group for these paths. I don't need that. So this path I'm going to drag up, which gets it out of the group. I'm going to grab this path and drag it up out of the group, and I'm going to grab this path and drag it up out of the group. And then same thing for these. I don't need the ladybug group inside of a group. I just need one group, because it just doesn't make any sense to have that. Because now when you spin this down, those are the actual groups inside there, and I'm going to go back and show you the difference. So this is just literally a group and a group. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to pull this out, and now I have a group of groups. So I hope that makes sense. I know it might be a little confusing the way I'm saying it, but I hope that helps. I'll show you one last thing, and then this video is done. Like I said, this stuff can go on forever. It's so deep. I'm going to hide these. Actually, I'm going to just delete them. I'm going to get rid of these paths. And I'm going to select two of these ladybugs, and I'm going to apply this graphic style to them again. And there's something I want you to note inside this layers panel. I'm going to pull it out to the center here. If you notice, the circles that have the appearance panel applied to them are now filled in. This one does not. This means this group does not have an appearance attached to it. It means that it's just a plain old group of elements and objects inside of there, right? So if I wanted to, let's just say my graphic styles panel wasn't open, my appearance panel wasn't open, and my layers was just sitting over here in the here, and I wanted to add this graphic style, this group graphic style to this group. What you can do is go over here and target the group with the graphic style, hold the Option or Alt key, and this little target, and it even says it right there. It says right there, click the target or drag to move the appearance. I'm going to hold the Option key and I'm going to click and drag down. You'll see the plus key come up. And then I'm going to let go, and now that appearance is now been added to that group. Pretty fun little trick, really slick. Like I said, these little tricks are meant to be the building blocks to help you become more efficient in your workflows when building your yard cards. Hope this helps.